All right, welcome back, everyone. If you're watching the full episode, you know that we're going to be covering our NFL draft stuff. And if you're watching our video clip from segment to segment, this is our NFL draft mock draft video. So, welcome. If you're new here, subscribe. We do content as much as we can, mostly once or twice a week. And if you want to be part of this journey, turn on that bell and be notified for all of our podcasts and videos. So um, I thank you in advance for that because I know you will, hopefully. So with that, I'm here with my co-host Michael Ween. If you're new here, and we're gonna get into our mock draft. So before we do that, let's just cover these trades that happened yesterday. So the 49ers move up from 12 up to 3. They trade with the Miami Dolphins. And then right after that, Miami trades back up into the sixth pick with the Eagles. I don't have the details of the trade in front of me, but those were some really, really crazy moves.
Yeah, so welcome back. This is part three of this extremely long but fun and jam packed episode, 62 of the Raw Prospect podcast. And we are kicking off, we're about a month away, our NFL draft content for 2021. This is a loaded quarterback class. It's loaded at so many positions. It's a loaded draft class. And so in the upcoming weeks, we're going to have more mock drafts, maybe some like individual team mock drafts mixed in there. We'll see what happens. We're going to be talking about prospect rankings, um, some of those mixed in, and then obviously mock drafts. We're going to have so much. So, but this is going to kick it off. We're going to do our top 10 individual mock drafts as if we were the GM of those teams. So, as Emmy mentioned, the draft order has been shaken, and I mentioned this at the very beginning as well. Um, the 49ers are trading up into the 3 spot uh, with the Miami Dolphins. So, very interesting move there. Very aggressive, too.
Right.
They're giving up like 2 future first round picks, a third round pick, and then their other first round pick for this year. So, aggressive, but we'll see what we think they're going to do. And then the Dolphins received the 12th pick, but then they used that to trade back up into the top 7 um, at the 6th spot with the Eagles. So interesting. So let's get into our mock drafts. We'll start in, I guess, we have to go in order. The number 1 overall pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right. So I'm the new GM of the Jaguars. I just got hired. Okay. So I'm taking Trevor Lawrence as my guy to be the face of the franchise with the Fabio haircut and everything. We're gonna be set with Trevor Lawrence. We obviously have 2 first round picks. We obviously have another one at the 22nd pick. So um, this is the move that we've all anticipated for as long as Trevor Lawrence has been in college. He's been the number one pick. He's been the number one guy. So this is a no brainer.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. I'm the new GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with the first pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars are picking Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback from Clemson. Yeah, this won't change, I don't think, ever. He's locked into this spot. Um, yeah, we'll probably get more into scouting reports later, but we're talking about a receiving corps. They added a veteran receiver in Marvin Jones. They're bringing Carlos Hyde, a solid veteran running back, to a group that already included DJ Chark, really good young receiver, Laviska Shenault, a guy they drafted out of Colorado in last year's draft, and Colin Johnson. who I'm very familiar with from UT. So they got a lot of young talent in this receiving core, mixed in with some veterans. They also have that other young running back, what's his name? Um,
Robinson.
Robinson. Yes, I was about to say Johnson for some reason,
Mm.
but
I think it's James
yeah,
Robinson or something like that.
yeah, something like that. So they're building a strong nucleus under new head coach Urban Meyer, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be a foundational. He's going to be their franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. He has all the tools.
Right.
So there we go.
So moving on with to the second pick in the draft, the Jets. So for the Jets, we covered their offseason acquisitions in our last episode. Go back and watch that if you're a Jets fan. Um, we, if I'm the Jets, I'm, I just drafted a new head coach, a new regime, and I'm moving on from Sam Darnold. I'm going to take Zach Wilson with the second overall pick. That's a controversial pick, but I think obviously some people would make the argument of the competition level of competition, but I would argue that what Zach Wilson was asked to do in BYU uh, uh, asked of him a higher level of quarterback play, and he was able to deliver on that with his reads, his ability to identify coverages is top notch. Look off safeties as well, and his accuracy is there. That's the one differentiator between him and Justin Fields in my eyes. Justin Fields, um, he has the arm talent and everything you want in a quarterback. I feel like Zach Wilson is more NFL ready right now, and I think he's the prospect that I'm sure will succeed right away.
Yeah, I wasn't going to waste any time either as the GM of the New York Jets. I'm also drafting Zach Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Despite, and it hasn't really been voiced on this podcast, but off camera, I've said that I'm higher on Justin Fields than some people are, and I think he'll end up being a better NFL quarterback than Zach Wilson. But I'm not going to waste any time with this mock draft, um, given that there was a report that came out today from a very reliable source, a draft beat writer who works for the Athletic that was at Zach Wilson's pro day that says, and he had multiple scouts tell him Zach Wilson's a lock at number 2. The draft starts at number 3. That's what multiple scouts have told multiple reporters, and reports that came out this afternoon after his pro day. Yeah, he's obviously, despite some of my doubts about him, he's a athletic, slender build. He's got what I call an elastic arm. He can throw from multiple different arm slots, which is useful in today's NFL. He has an incredible ability to make plays off platform and throw, on the run and stuff. That's probably his biggest strength. And he's obviously a very, very good pinpoint accurate deep ball thrower, which is also you need to be able to throw the ball deep and stretch the field in today's NFL. I do have my doubts about only one season of super elite production. He did play against some subpar competition compared to some of his peers, but and he did play behind one of the best offensive lines in the country. But that's not to say uh, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields didn't also play behind very good offensive lines. So we'll get into more of the argument between Justin Fields and Zach Wilson in probably a future episode, like coming up here really soon. But since we do have our differing opinions, but just because I think he's the better, or Justin Fields is the better prospect, doesn't mean that Zach Wilson can't be drafted over Justin Fields. And I think he's the perfect quarterback for the New York Jets. So,
Right. I agree. So moving on to number 3, like you said, the draft starts here. That's a pretty accurate statement. The 49ers, wow. Before they made that trade up, I was thinking we're going to go corner, but obviously you're moving out to number 3 to get your guy at quarterback. I'm taking Justin Fields. Clearly, I think that's their plan, but um, I haven't looked at much tape on Trey Lance. So obviously the 49er scouts are going to go deep onto both of those guys. And I think whoever they pick, that's their guy. So I think they're going quarterback no matter what, but I'm going to pick Justin Fields because based on what I know, he's the best quarterback available. So
Yeah,
that's
I
my
agree.
pick.
I agree. I think they're going for Justin Fields. He's the more experienced um, quarterback at this stage in his career. And if they're going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, um, and there was a report today that said they're not, but I don't believe that for a second after the reports that came out about Jared Goff and stuff that they're not going to trade him. Like, I think it could all be a smokescreen. I think they have their questions about Jimmy Garoppolo, particularly in the health department, given that he's really struggled to stay healthy past like September in most years. Yeah, they had their questions with Garoppolo, whether you like it or not, and they're going for a guy that you can plug in and I think play right away. I don't think you could play Trey Lance right away. I think he's really talented, but I think he needs to sit a year behind Jimmy Garoppolo. So if you are gonna keep Jimmy Garoppolo and play that out, then you could go after Lance. But if you're just going for the guy right now, you got to take Fields. He's more experienced. He's got a rocket arm. He's got that toughness that we saw displayed on multiple occasions. Obviously, people question his processing ability, and I can understand that. He's a little slow to process defenses at times, and he sometimes takes too many unnecessary hits. But he's an elite runner. He's elusive. He's got a powerful arm. He's one of the best deep throwers in this draft, along with Zach Wilson. And he's got the skill set. He's just gotta work on, and I don't know I think you can work on the processing ability and maybe some of the pocket presence things that come with being a quarterback in the NFL. But you get him and you have he'll have a one of the best weaponry cores to work with in the league. I mean, Debo Samuel, um, all of those guys. So, and I think he'll fit well in a Kyle Shanahan system. So that's the play if you're going for like immediate um, immediate play, in my opinion. But you never know. I mean, Trey Lance he's got all the tools. So if they wanted to go that route, I understand. I just think he needs to sit a year. But we'll get into more of that later.
Right. So moving on to this next pick, we have the Falcons at the 4th overall pick. This is gonna be a big surprise. I'm actually trading down with the Falcons. I'm gonna trade down with the Denver Broncos to go down to the 9th overall pick, and the Broncos will move up in the draft to 4 and draft Trey Lance and put some fire in the belly of Drew Lock. And if that works out, great. But if Drew Lock keeps playing the way he's playing, you need to fix the quarterback position because I think that's the only hole on this Broncos team. They are stacked everywhere else. Offensively, they have so many weapons. Defensively, you have a defensive coach in Vic Fangio, and you have Von Miller coming back, really good pass rushers. They have a solid cornerback group now with the addition of Kyle Fuller. So that is the one hole on your team. And adding one more player to the quarterback room, this will hopefully improve both of them to where you can improve next season and actually have some decent quarterback play, because that's all you need to be competitive.
I think it's totally possible Atlanta could trade down. And I think there are some quarterback needy teams like the Panthers, although I don't know how likely that would happen because they are in the same division, and you hate to
Right.
reinforce your division rival with a bunch of picks to trade up. But yeah, I think the Panthers, the Broncos, there's some other teams obviously in the quarterback market that could trade up here. But I didn't incorporate any trades into my mock draft just for the sake of time and simplicity. Matt Ryan has been sacked 40 plus times each of the past 3 seasons. I don't have the exact numbers, but that is a fact. So I'm going offensive line. The best offensive lineman in this class is Penei Sewell, an offensive tackle out of Oregon. You put him in the mix. He's a well built, wide frame with a dynamic. He's powerful off the line of scrimmage, dynamic skill set, plays with incredible consistency and sound fundamentals. He's got really strong hands. He's a mauler off the line of scrimmage and run blocking, and he makes pass blocking look pretty effortless. In mirroring the pass rushers, he makes that part of the game look pretty effortless. He does have some hand placement issues at time, and there are some minor things you can touch up, but he's one of the best offensive line prospects we've seen in a while. And I think of all the offensive line prospects, because there are some good ones, while he may not have the highest ceiling, I think he has the lowest floor. He's going to be a really solid player no matter where he goes, at the very least.
Right.
I think he can turn to a Pro Bowler. Give Matt Ryan some more protection. I did actually think about Kyle Pitts at this spot. I know Atlanta already has a ton of weapons with Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and the other guy,
Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, those guys. But if you think about Arthur Smith, what he did at Tennessee, he likes to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, versatile tight end sets. I did think about another pass catcher, but you got to protect Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan he's 35 years old. They just restructured his contract. He still has a couple years left, I think, of really good football. Just protect him a little bit more. Because he's one of those quarterbacks that needs the protection because he's not very mobile. So I went with Penei Sewell. I thought about defense as well, but I didn't see anybody. I don't have anyone that you go this high.
Right. This high, I don't
Yeah.
think there's a defensive guy you take that high. Exactly.
Right.
And another thing I wanted to say about the Falcons is, as you said, they kicked the can down the road with Matt Ryan's contract, and you hit that right on the head. So they can't get out of that deal for these next couple of years. So going with a quarterback is off the table. Matt Ryan's their guy. And then obviously, if they don't trade down, Penei Sewell is the guy they're picking. That's definitely their decision that they need to make. Just whether they want to trade down, get some defense, or get their guy to protect Matt Ryan.
Right.
So moving on here to the 5th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals. That's where I have Penei Sewell going. So for me, at the where the draft board is at, this is a no-brainer. You already have weapons for Joe Burrow. You just need to protect him. And getting a franchise left tackle, and then obviously you can work with getting another guy in the draft later in this draft. But go ahead and get your guy at left tackle and then worry about all the other stuff later. You can move guys around on that offensive line. So I think that's a no-brainer. You got to protect.
Yeah.
Joe
The
Burrow.
Bengals, you have to go offensive line. And since I already have Sewell off the board at 4 to the Falcons, I'm going with the next best option, in the draft, and that's Rayshawn Slater, an offensive lineman from Northwestern. Here's a guy who I'm talking like Mel Kiper Jr. Here's a guy.
Oh my goodness.
Here's a guy who's he's rugged, he's physical, he's smooth, he's got positional flexibility. That's the thing they rave about with Slater. He can play guard or tackle on both sides. He's actually the son of an NBA player, so he's got some of that like power forward build that I really like. As I mentioned, um, he's got the quickest feet of any offensive lineman in this draft. He's got good balance. He's very good in pass protection. People say that he's not necessarily the ideal size, and his arm length isn't ideal. But I don't like to nitpick like that, especially when you're doing mock drafts. For the Bengals, if Sewell's off the board, you have to go with the next best thing, and that is um, Slater, the offensive lineman from Northwestern. If you think about it, he played in the Big Ten, and he was tested by a lot of really good pass rushers,
Right, exactly.
NFL caliber pass rushers like Chase Young and all those guys that have come out the past couple of years.
Right.
So whether it's Sewell or Slater, um, you go with either one, whoever is available.
Right. And I think if Sewell's off the board, I think Cincinnati can definitely think about trading down here
Right.
because I think Slater will drop given that these teams next have some team needs that they got to fill specifically and like the wide receiver and cornerback spots. So, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So with that, we will move on here to the Miami Dolphins who traded with the 49ers and then the Eagles back up to 6. And I think it was to get this player specifically. Um, I thought about getting Kyle Pitts, but I think you already have Mike Gesicki, and I think you want that number one guy on the outside, and Jamar Chase is the guy that will be able to do that. Um, with what the trades that they made, I think that just confirmed that they're sticking with Tua, obviously, and you want to get him weapons. I mean, you have Devontae Parker, you have that small slot guy, I forgot his name, but you don't have a true number one right now. And you have your tight end set already. You have a really good tight end. He was your best target last year. So throwing another guy in the tight end room won't fix that wide receiver problem. So you're going to go and get Jamar Chase here. And I think this will be the best in terms of immediate impact because you don't want you don't want Kyle Pitts and Mike Gesicki stepping on each other's toes.
I actually disagree. I think Kyle Pitts is he's a generational talent. He's a wide receiver, but in a tight end's body. He can play multiple positions. You can split him out wide. You can put him inside as a tight end. I go Kyle Pitts. He's tall, athletic build, long arms, incredible catch radius, excellent body control. He's a small route runner or smart route runner. I don't know why I said small. Strong. He's strong after the catch. He's got that positional versatility. He can play, and he's actually a speedy guy. I think he ran like a 4.4 at his pro day, I believe. So he can. He has the speed to create separation on the outside. I think he's just a generational talent. Now, if you're getting a tight end to block and pass protect, that's kind of his weakness, and I don't think he's going to be used in that way. He's just an all around outside weapon for Tua Tagovailoa, and you can't go wrong with Jamar Chase. But they did bring in Will Fuller, and I understand the health concerns, but they have Will Fuller, they have obviously Devontae Parker, and they have the other guy. I'm forgetting his name, but
Yeah, I don't know his name either.
he's pretty good too. I think and you get a two tight end, Gasicki and Pitts. I think he's a wide receiver and tight end all in one. But um, and I think they just traded for a blocking tight end, so that's not really a concern if I'm I think it's like Lee Smith or something, I believe. They
Mm,
traded for a blocking tight end from the Bills or something. So he's really not going to be asked to pass protect a lot. And if he is, that's something you can work on with him with more reps. He didn't really do it a lot at Florida. Um, but, I you can't. I think this is a situation where if Miami takes Pitts, Detroit is taking Jamar Chase, and if Miami takes Jamar Chase, Detroit, although they have a lot of questions on their defense, they lost Kenny Galladay, and you can't give Jared Goff just no weapons. So I think they'll take Jamar Chase at the next pick. But you go ahead and give your next.
right. I actually have them going a different direction. I have the Lions picking Patrick Surtain out of Alabama, the corner. Um, he's a guy who's literally a cornerstone, if you want to, a little play on words there. He's a knee biter, if you want to go there. I mean, he's a guy who you throw in on your defense opposite of Jeff Okuda, and immediately you have um, one of the best potential duos, elite duos at corner in the entire league. And those are the type of pieces that um, you can really build your entire team around. And obviously, Detroit wants to build an identity. I think that's the biggest thing they want to do. I think they want to build a team that's going to run the football and just pound you. And then defensively, you're going to play good defense. And that's how you win with Jared Goff. Um, I think if Rashawn Slater happened to be on the board, I would go with him. But this is a really deep wide receiver class. I've been looking at a lot of these draft boards, and you see a lot of really good wide receivers going like second round, third round. You got like guys like Kadarius Toney, Rondale Moore, the other Moore. There's a lot of guys in this wide receiver class. So um, I think you get a guy on defense and you go from there.
I went a different route. I'm going with Jamar Chase. I think he's the best receiver in this class. Um, but when you think about the Lions, they did sign two receivers. Tyrell Williams, I'm not really high on, and Rashad Perryman. He's a good piece on a cheap deal, but I think they still need that true number one to go along with Jared Goff. I do agree with you in that this is a team that's going to run obviously pound the football. They brought in Jamal Williams as well to back up the running back they already have. But they did lose. I mean, they lost a lot. They lost Jamal Agnew, they lost Marvin Jones, they lost Kenny Galladay, and Jesse James. So they lost a lot offensively. And I think Jamar Chase, I mean, we saw the display that he put on, given it was a historically good offense. 20 touchdowns in 2019. He's a well-built pass catcher, long arms, strong at the catch point, excellent body control. He's slippery and can create yards after the catch. Um, they say that he's sort of an unrefined route runner in some ways, but you can work on that. And he lacks top end elite speed. But with his ability to go up and challenge for 50-50 balls, kind of in a way that, Kenny Galladay did so well. I think they're looking for, but, I think they're looking for a weapon. But if you go defense, I won't, you know, they have so many needs. So
Right.
you can go in a lot of different directions.
Right. And I think they know they won't win right away. So, I
Right.
mean, they're just going to go with best player available. And whoever that guy is for them, then you just kind of have to trust it, whatever position it may be. And then, so we'll move on. So the next pick, I have the Carolina Panthers taking Kyle Pitts. That's a no-brainer. Like that's no hesitation. Like literally, as soon as the clock starts for the Panthers, just boom, Kyle Pitts. Um, he will immediately go in and be their red zone guy, be their just like you said, franchise talent in terms of a target for Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, they still have questions at quarterback long term, but I didn't think, um, I didn't think it was the right time for taking a guy like Trey Lance. I didn't like where it was at in terms of the draft board at 8. I think you can get a guy later, maybe trade back into the first round and get like Mac Jones or someone like that. Um, but with the way the draft board shook out for my draft, Kyle Pitts was the no-brainer pick for me.
I went with Trey Lance. I think given that it seems like they're going to keep Teddy Bridgewater in the fold for next year,
Right.
you sit Trey Lance behind him for a year or two because I think that's just what Trey Lance needs. And then down the road in 1 or 2 years, you have a guy who's doesn't have a lot of experience, yes, at North Dakota State. Only has played like one full season, I believe. But in that season, he was really good. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. He actually had to call his own pass protections while at North Dakota State. So he's a very smart kid. He's very athletic. I think that will fit some of the things that Matt Rule wants to do. And if it doesn't work out, you have a good trade piece in Trey Lance. I think the Panthers. I don't. It's hard to know what David Tepper, the owner, wants to do. I don't. I don't know, but this is what I would do. Go ahead and get that long-term quarterback of the future in behind Teddy Bridgewater because I don't really know what next year's quarterback class looks like. I don't think it's nearly as strong as this one. Of course, you could look at a quarterback in another round, in a later round, but I think Trey Lance is too talented to pass up on. And I have Carolina slated as one of those teams looking to trade up into the top 5 to get a quarterback. But David Tepper, it's hard to know what he wants to do.
Right. And I can definitely see the Panthers as a team that is in the market for Sam Darnold as well. Like you can just send like a second to the Jets and then maybe get Sam Darnold in return, let him sit for a year, send him to Cabo or something, get the ghost stuff out of his head, and maybe have him reset his brain a little bit so he can come back a better and a new player for the next year. So that's an option as well. But I didn't think it was the right pick to take Mac Jones. I think it would be a little bit of a reach. So if they did like Mac Jones, I think trading down would be an option. So that will do it for the Panthers. We'll move on to the 9th pick here. And for me, that is the Atlanta Falcons since we had that since I did that trade with the Denver Broncos. So for the Falcons, I'm going to get Micah Parsons out of Penn State. Thumping linebacker, a guy who's rangy, a really, really good run defender. You already have Deion Jones, who's that smaller guy who's really good in coverage. Micah Parsons going to be that guy who can come up in the run game and attack. And I think the size in the middle that he can bring is something that this defense has been missing. And I think this was a no-brainer pick with Patrick Surtain off the board.
I did the same thing except for the Broncos. Now I know they have a lot of pieces on that defense. They went out and signed. Before I would have said cornerback is a position of like immediate need for the Broncos.
Right.
But they went out and signed a Pro Bowler that's been in a Vic Fangio defense before and Kyle Fuller, and they also brought back Ronald Darby, and they have some good pieces in Justin Simmons in that secondary. So the secondary is fine. And of course, you can maybe use a pick on a depth piece in that position group later on in the draft. But right now, I know they have 2 good pass rushers in Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. I did think about going with an edge rusher here because I still think you need to have depth at that position. Whether you think it or not, I mean, Von Miller is getting older and he's injury prone, and so is Bradley Chubb. It doesn't hurt to have depth at that position. But I went ahead and went with Micah Parsons, the best linebacker prospect in the draft, because I really don't know who's manning the middle for the Broncos defense. We don't have a lot of holes, but who's in the middle? Who's quarterbacking the defense? And Micah Parsons can be that guy. He's long, athletic, versatile, off-ball linebacker, sideline to sideline speed, strong, reliable tackler, good blitzer, explosive. Really, he's he's raw, but if you get him in here now, I think he can make an immediate impact. He's sort of raw in coverage. He didn't do it a whole lot at Penn State, sort of like the man-to-man coverage stuff, but he has the skills to do it. I don't know if I overheard like he may have some character issues. I don't know how all that stuff is working out, but I think he's just too talented to pass up here for the Broncos. If they do have one need on that defense, it's at the linebacker position, particularly in the middle of that defense. I do think they need a more athletic piece, a speed guy in the middle who can quarterback the defense, sort of like a Devin Bush or a Devin White, someone like that. And Micah Parsons fits that mold.
Right.
So, yeah, I went with Micah Parsons as well, just for a different team.
Right. And I think depending on how the draft shakes out, I think the Broncos could be a team that either trades up or trades down. They kind of read as a team that is kind of in the middle of trying to win now and rebuilding. So I think if you wanted to go defensive line, I think I could definitely see them trading down and getting a defensive tackle like Christian Barmore, or
Right.
trading down and getting a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoah out of Notre Dame. So there's a lot of options that they can go with in this draft. So they're a really, really interesting team. And I'll keep an eye on them definitely when the draft gets closer and closer, because I can see them making moves.
Okay, so we're only doing top 10 today. So our last pick is for your team, the Dallas Cowboys.
Right. So for the last pick of the night, I am between two corners, Caleb Farley and J.C. Horn, and it really comes down to injury history. Caleb Farley has has a history of back injuries, and that's extremely concerning given that our former high draft picks on defense specifically have injury history as well. So we don't want another guy like that. We have expectations for next year, and we need a guy who can be on the field and make an immediate impact. So I'm going to go with J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. He's not as long and rangy as Caleb Farley, but I think given the injury situation with Farley, I think it's too risky to take him. I think if you did really like Farley, I think it wouldn't be a bad pick here if you got his medicals and you got the information and saw that it wasn't too dire. But obviously, I'm not in the position to know that, so I went with the safer pick and just got the guy who will hopefully be on the field.
Yeah, I read up on the cornerback class. I think it's a really good cornerback class.
Right.
There's, for me, I haven't had a cornerback off the board yet. There's 3 really good options here for the Cowboys. It's obviously a position of need. But I went with Patrick Surtain from Alabama to go along with the guy they picked last year, Trayvon Diggs. I think he's probably the best cornerback available, but you can make an argument for Farley, but he's had injury history, as you mentioned. And then J.C. Horn's an interesting guy who I think will go a little bit later in the first round. I think in terms of Surtain, he's a athletic playmaking corner. Obviously, he's been in a system, smooth footwork, refined technique, good ball skills, competitive nature. I think that's all you want. He's disciplined. He's stingy. Sort of fits the Dan Quinn mold, as does a guy like J.C. Horn. I think I like Caleb Farley too, and there are some scouts that rank him as the best, or some scouts that rank him as the best corner. But I think since Surtain is sitting here, and I think he's overall the best bet, I think you go with Surtain. But
Right. And I just have to say that if Sertan were to fall to us at 10, I would be over the moon with that pick. Um I'm honestly, if I were a betting man, that I would think he'd be off the board. But if it were to fall that way, I would be so happy because that would be really, really good for us. He's a really good corner prospect.
right. So that pretty much does it for this mega episode of the Raw
Right.
Prospect Podcast. We covered so much today, and there's still so much more. But to recap, we did our Sweet 16 bracket predictions like 2 hours ago. And then we did all the NBA trades. We did analysis and some grades for all the NBA trades. And we did our first mock draft, which was fun. And we'll have more to come. But yeah, that's all. That's all we have for today.
Right. And if you're new here, subscribe and hit that notification bell. We do this once or twice a week. We're both college students. We got busy schedules, but we're still pumping out that content for y'all. This is what we enjoy to do. We we're putting in the work for y'all, and hopefully y'all enjoy this mega episode. Hopefully we'll be back soon, but we got a lot of sports content coming up in terms of baseball and obviously draft. It's going to be a fun couple months here. So stay tuned for that, guys, and hit the like button and share this with your friends. And other than that, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace out.